Hey guys, it's Nik the Booksmith. Welcome back, welcome back. Guess what I found? I found a stack of signatures. Don't really remember when I put these together, but I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I have them. There are 9 of them. They even have holes punched into the fold. It was like the universe looked down upon me and said, "Here, have this gift." And I said, "Thank you, universe." So let's make a book. I looked around at some of the book covers that I have. I have a little bin full of just, covers. And one of them was from an old textbook from the 60s, Alternating Current Fundamentals, riveting. I guess it probably would be if you were an electrical engineer. But look how close in height these are. I mean, it's like meant to be. And I know it's kind of a boring brown. I don't care. I don't care. Because it doesn't really matter, I think, because you can always decorate the cover of your book. You can use regular chipboard, but you'd have to decorate that too, or paint it or whatever. So it doesn't really matter. I kind of like the boring brown, just random stuff, and I'll add some more stuff to it, but I don't know, it doesn't really bother me. For a spine, because obviously this book doesn't have a spine, we're going to need to add something, right? I found this printed paper. It's got blue and like a dark periwinkle with black and gold on this beige background. I think because of the gold in the titles, I don't know, it just kind of goes. What do you think? Think that kind of goes? I guess I could bring it down here so you can actually see what I'm talking about. So I think I will use this on the outside. Fabric can be used, gift wrap, wallpaper, all kinds of things can be used. If you're going to be using paper, one thing to keep in mind is that you want the grain of your paper to be parallel with where your spine direction. So your spine goes from the head to the tail, and you want the grain running in this direction. This paper is rolled up, as you can see, and it does have a grain running in this direction. The grain does not run in this direction. So I'm just going to cut a piece of this off just so that it's a little bit easier to work with because it's large and in charge at the moment. Let's whittle this sucker down. Sound good? I'm going to need, I'm going to say 4.5 inches, and then I can cut that down from there, however that needs to be. And just to double check the grain, which is more difficult if it's been rolled up, but if you just bend it in half and let it roll back and forth, do you see how wide that curl is? And I'm not like pressing it together, I'm just letting it fold where it wants to fold. But then on this side, even though it's shorter, you see how the curve is smaller? The curve is smaller because the grain is running in this direction. So it's all those parallel grains are easily folded back and forth. When you do it this way, since the grain is running this direction, this is the grain, you're having to bend those grain, and so it's more cumbersome and it's not curling like it should. I can even feel it bending the grain in there. That is important because if you would happen to make your spine with the paper in this direction, paper is going to have to bend with the opening and closing of the book. All those grain fibers that are running in this direction will end up getting broken over time, and that cracks your paper. Paper is probably going to crack sooner or later anyway, but if you're worried about that, just use fabric. I just don't want to. Not on the outside. I don't have anything that really matches real well, so that's why I don't want to. I don't wanna. You can't make me. I'm gonna hold that down. So because I am going to use paper, I'm going to do my little trick of putting varnish on it so that it is more flexible and has a little bit more strength to it. With the last video, I had used the regular Liquitex Professional. So here is the Liquitex Professional, and it has the orange label. This is the basics. One of my subscribers commented, what about the basics? It's half the price. Does it work as well? And I said, you know what? I don't have any. I will order some. And so I did. I ordered some, and here it is. This one works better, and I'll tell you why. This one is more concentrated. When it dries down, you can tell a difference that it is a smoother, richer finish. This one is, I think it's just a watered down version. I'm sure that there's like stuff in there that I couldn't explain, you know, chemicals and stuff. But I'm sure they're very similar chemicals. I just think this one is watered down. This one's more concentrated. That's my guess. Like I said, this one does work better, but if you can only afford the basics, get the basics. It's gonna be okay either way. I'm gonna use the basics today just because that's how I am. My brush is too big to fit into the bottle, so I'll pour some out. You can even see the difference. Like I poured that out and it's like skim milk. I'll pour a little bit of this in here. When you pour this one out, it's like cream. Yeah, I'll mix them up. That's why I think it's just a watered down version. But I'm just going to put a quick coat on this. I might not do the varnish on the back side just because I think it'll be all right. Famous last words. Let me set this whole shebang aside. As for the width of the spine, I just kind of held it together. On my grid mat, I can kind of guesstimate, you know, the width that I want my signatures squished into. You can let them have lots and lots and lots of room if you want, and give it, you know, 2.5, 3 inches if you want, but I'm going to be a little bit more conservative, and I thought 1.75 inches would be adequate. I have this heavyweight cardstock, and I think it's 100 or 110 pound. It's not like chipboard. I think it might be like the heaviest cardstock you can buy. So if I cut a strip off of this, again, make sure that the grain is going in the right direction. And you can actually see the grain in this one. This was an 8.5 by 11 piece, and I cut a strip off of it for something else. And 99.9% of the time, the grain will run in the lengthwise direction with the longest side of the paper. So I'm just going to cut the strip off for my spine at 1.75 inches. And then it needs to be the same height as the book covers. So, voila. Now I have 9 signatures, which is helpful because then if you find the center of the strip of paper here, and the center should be at 7/8 of an inch. I think 7/8 and 7/8 is 1.75, right? I should have done this in millimeters because it's just so much easier to do in millimeters if you're going to be splitting hairs like this. It's easier to split millimeters, but I think that's right. So if you find the center like that, then with an odd number of signatures, you know that the middle signature will go right on the center line, and you can transfer where the holes are punched in the signatures onto that center line. Now I know that this is the middle one, and then there's 8 more signatures. So then 4 will go on this side and 4 will go on this side. So you can split this side into 4 and this side into 4 and get it evenly spaced. Ta-da! So I have those holes all the way down. You can use a heavier weight chipboard if you want. You can use lighter weight chipboard. You can do whatever you want. The varnish is dry. And so the next thing I need to do is figure out how far over on my cover I want the paper to fall. And I don't care if it covers some of this. It's going to cover some of that anyway. So it don't matter. I'm going to line it up with the 20-inch line here. And then I will know as I lay this over, I will know on the grid. Let me back you up a little bit because, you know, yikes. So that would be like an inch, you know, inch and a half. I kind of like the inch and a quarter if I have enough to do that. I'm just gonna guesstimate this. I've got this little dowel rod that I can use as a spacer because you need a hinge gap, and I'll use this one. And then that is almost an inch and a quarter, so it'll be all right. It should be okay. Because then what I can do is I can come in here and draw that like that. Do the same thing on this, and I just really need it at the top and the bottom, a couple of inches. I don't need it through the whole thing anyway. And then that way when I go to glue it on, I can line this line up with the edge, and then this inner line on the paper can be lined up with the edge of the book cover. And then I know that it'll be lined up from top to bottom. All right, let me get out my glue and we'll glue this on at least to the front cover real quick. I was watching a little bit ago some YouTube videos that are about people that are getting scammed online. In particular, it's romance scams. Do you remember back in the day, back in the day, when there were those, you'd get those emails from a Nigerian prince or something who has millions and millions of dollars, but he's on the run because there's some kind of a conspiracy to dethrone him and usurp his sovereignty, and he's got to get this money safe to somebody trustworthy in the United States. And you remember back in the early 2000s when that was going on. I don't know, it probably still goes on. I never got any of the romance scammer trying to, message me. But they try all kinds of stuff. They'll try to message you on Facebook, even if you're not on a dating site, it doesn't matter. They play on people's innocence, and usually they try to contact people that are like 50 and above, people that came from a generation where there was more trust. Because like nowadays, somebody tried to do that to a millennial and they see a scammer a million miles away. It's not going to work on them. But I was watching this show, and oh my goodness, it made my heart break. Oh, it's just horrible what these scammer people will do to innocent people, just getting their money. They want you to get attached. That's the whole point, I guess.
So I had been on Match.com for maybe a month or so. This very interesting guy named Mike started contacting me. He was persistent and very attractive. His communication was very almost poetic, and we hit it off. He called me my woman and started to sign his emails, your husband. We were talking about marriage, I would say within 5 or 6 weeks. My mom and I were out to brunch, and Mom and I went to the bridal store, and I got a wedding dress. And every time I would talk to him on the phone, I would give him updates on, what I had done for wedding planning that day, and he loved it.
Then once they get you attached, then they start asking for money. Let me put this down. Get the bone folder out and give this a once over. So anyway, funny story. Back in the day, back in those Nigerian prince or princess, can I put this money in your bank account? What's your bank account? So I can, that one. I used to mess with those scammers just for the fun of it. So I'd string them along and make them think that I was going to be helping them. But, I figure if I was taking up their time, then they weren't scamming somebody else. I glued myself to the wax paint, and then I peeled some off like a dingle. So it was part of a website that it was, what was the website called? And it was like forums, and then you'd go to the forum and you'd post your latest scam acquisition. It was kind of like this game. How many scammers can you scam? But there are all kinds of people that do this, and they have absolutely no qualms whatsoever of cheating people out of their life savings. It's just horrific. And so when I saw this channel, it's called Catfished. It was eye-opening to see what the scammers are up to now. But what they'll do is they'll steal pictures from somebody's social media account, go grab photos from whoever. It can be a guy or a girl, or doesn't matter. Then they message somebody, and if it's on Facebook, they, thank you for accepting my friend request. You're so beautiful, or you're so handsome, or whatever bullcrap they want to hook you with. Like I said, they usually try it with folks that are either divorced, widowed, somebody that's in a vulnerable space. They take advantage of loneliness, and it's insidious. It's horrific what they do. They get close to these innocent folks, and then, a couple of weeks goes by, or, sometimes it's the long con. Sometimes they'll hold off for months, and all of a sudden, like, oh no, I broke my leg and I can't work, and I got to pay my bills, or, I'm working on an oil rig, and because I'm an engineer, and I hurt myself, I can't get home because my bank account is locked. That's always gonna happen. My bank account's locked. I can't get into my bank account. Somebody hacked me, or it's something. And they usually start out kind of small. They usually don't go in for the kill right away with, please send me, that's too big, please send me $20,000. I'm sure there's some ballsy ones out there that do.
I know he asked me for gift cards. He would say, $600. And I would say, babe, I don't have $600 to send you. It wasn't long before he needed a huge sum because a part had broken on the rig since he was the contractor. He was responsible for replacing it. So he asked me for, I think he started with $100,000. And I said, that's 2 years salary for me. I took a home equity loan out on my house. He keeps telling me I don't understand how the business works and that he's the one in charge of replacing the part.
But it always comes down to money. That's because that's what they want. They want the money. They want your money. And it's just evil. It's wrong. It breaks my heart. So if you know of anybody that you think is being scammed by some heartless garbage human, send them a link to Catfished so that they can see firsthand some other examples of folks who have gone through the exact same thing, and maybe it'll help them to realize what they're getting themselves into. They'll have like warehouses of cubicles, people that's their 9 to 5. They get up, they drink their coffee, they go to this call center, and they scam people. They are scamming somebody's grandmother or somebody's mom or somebody's dad, somebody's lonely aunt or uncle or something. They're scamming them out of their life savings and leaving them with nothing. Maybe they met this person on a Christian dating site or something. That's another way that they get you. They're like, oh, well, I met him on a Christian dating site, so they're Christian. They'll never lie to me. Or a Jewish dating site, because there's Jewish dating sites too, and there's all kinds of dating sites for religious backgrounds. It doesn't matter, because these people aren't real. They're not real, and they just want your money. Or this lady's my age. She's 65 years old. She's not going to scam me. It's like, yeah, it's probably a dude, and he stole a picture from somebody's Facebook page, and it's not who you're talking to.
I'll probably text her one more time saying, hey, you are not who you are. Leave me alone.
Well, it's probably a guy on the other end that you've been talking to.
I'm going to glue this in. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm fumbling around here trying to explain to you. So I'm going to glue this in. Lord. It's one of those days where my brain is lacking in communication brain cells. Like, they're not like, clicking, firing, whatever it is. I just thought I would pass along that little PSA in case you also know of somebody that may be in this situation and you're trying to figure out how to help them see the light. Or maybe somebody has contacted you on Our Time dating website, you know, ones for, I don't know, is it 50 or older or 60 or older or something like that, or Christian Mingle or whatever, Facebook. Somebody's contacted you and they're like, you're so beautiful or you're so handsome and let's get to know each other. And before long, they're like, oh no, tragedy has struck and I need money and I have lots of money. I just can't get to it because my account's been hacked and it's locked up until I can prove that I am who I am. And I'll pay you back, you know, because we're going to be married. So when I get back to the United States, I'm going to have millions of dollars. And they have an answer for everything. Everything. And there's always a tragedy happening that they need your help. So take it from me, someone who used to be a scammer. It was kind of fun. I'll have to tell you guys about it one day because there are some stories I could tell. The inside is going to be lined with fabric. This will add some strength. I just didn't want fabric on the outside. I don't know why, I just didn't. So there. I'm just going to cut this little piece off. I just want it to be just shy, because this is going to fold over. This paper is going to fold over. So I just repeated myself, but you know what I mean. So I'm going to mark it with a pencil. And then just trim it. It doesn't even have to be quite as wide as it is. So my grandma used to hate it whenever us kids would say, so, she'd say, sew buttons on your winter underwear. Anybody else's grandma do that? Because usually it was because she told us something we were doing was wrong or stupid, and it usually was because that's what kids do. And we'd say, so, she'd be incensed, and I don't blame her because we were all a bunch of hooligans, just a rotten bunch of children. So I'm going to brush the glue onto the spine and the little gaps beside the spine that I made with the little skinny dowel rod. And the little skinny dowel rod, it was just shy of 1/4 inch. I'm going to say 5 millimeters. Make sure I get glue on the little upright edges here. And then I can lay this in the middle. And then I'll just put some glue on this little edge here so that I can fold the fabric down, and then it will be hidden by the liner of when I line the cover, inside of the covers. But if you start in the middle and then work your way out, it usually is a little more even. Carefully fold that over, and the paper will stretch some. And there are some other YouTube channels that they go for not the romance scammers, but they'll go for the ones that try to take over your computer. So when you accidentally open up an email with an attachment that you shouldn't have opened up, and then you automatically get this pop-up that says Microsoft or whatever has detected a virus, so you need to call this number right away, you know, that kind of thing. I will let you in on a little secret. Microsoft doesn't care if you have a virus. They are not going to ask you to call them so they can help you get rid of a virus. It doesn't happen. They really do not care. You might get a pop-up from your antivirus software, but it won't have a phone number to call. And then you call this number, and then they want remote access to be able to, help you with your computer. So you go to a certain website and you click on another link, and then they have access to your computer. That's the way some of it works. And then some of them, you just click on something in an email. So never do that. Never click on anything from an email. Even if it looks like it's from your bank, don't click on it. Open up a new browser window, type in your bank's website, and go there from a brand new window, from either type it in yourself or from a legitimate link to your bank. Don't follow a link, an email. Even if it's a legitimate email, it is always best to err on the side of caution and just open a new window and type it in and go there yourself and then sign into your account and see if there's something wrong. If there's something wrong, you can get out your credit card or your debit card or whatever and call the bank. Just call them directly and ask them. But never click on a link or download anything that they want you to download. Just don't do it, man. Don't do it. While this is damp, I'm gonna bend it a little bit and put a little bit of curve in it. It'll probably curve anyway, but when it's damp, it's easier to mold that and manipulate that into a curve. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking here, giving you all this unsolicited advice about how to, live your life. Anyway, I'll set this aside for a minute because it's gonna dry. These signatures will get sewn in, and this one look all right? That kind of looks all right, doesn't it? Kind of matches that. Do I want it to match that? I could also use blue but I thought this would kind of be okay. And another thing that I could do at this point is if I wanted to add, where did I put them? Here we go. I had some little labels. If I wanted to add some labels to the spine, I would need to do that before I sewed the signatures to it, because then I will be, sewing. You can't put them on afterwards. Well, I suppose you could, but I'm not gonna. These could be added at any point now if I wanted to do that. Might have to print it out smaller, but I thought that might look cool. So I'm gonna go print that smaller. I will be right back. I printed these smaller, and I'm going to put a coat of varnish on them. I will let that dry, and then I'll be able to put these on the book. All right, now that those are glued on, I can go ahead and stitch in the signatures. They will go in thusly, like this. And I'm going to stitch in each one on its own with a 5-hole pamphlet stitch. So in the center, I'm going to take my needle and thread, and this is just embroidery floss, and I split the thread into 3 because there's 6. A little clip just so that I don't pull it all the way through, because I want a couple inches of a tail. And then I go up to the next hole, and then to the top one, out through the top, then back in through that second. I'll take that off now. And then I go back out through the middle. This is a modified pamphlet stitch, by the way, only because I didn't want a long stretch of thread anywhere. And then this goes in, and then into the signature. Out through the bottom one. Then back in. And then I make sure that everything is snug as a bug. That. And I'm going to loop it under this second one. Go. And then I'm just going to tie these two tails off right in the center. And then that gets cut off. And that is how each one is sewn in. And then there will be a solid line of stitching on the inside and on the outside both. But I won't make you watch me sew all these 9 signatures in, because that would be cruel and unusual punishment. I've just cut some cardstock to kind of line the inside of the book. And then that'll be all she wrote. My daughter sent me these library pockets. Even have a library card in them. Not that you would loan out your travel. Well, maybe you would. I don't know. Anyway, I think that is about it. Of course, a person could keep going as much as they wanted, but this is the basic method for taking some book covers and adapting them to whatever size you need them to be by adding a spine in the width that you need. As far as the papers on the inside go, those can be trimmed down to fit inside the book cover. You can stack all your papers together and then trim them all down as you need them to be trimmed so that they'll fit when they go inside. But yeah, it turned out pretty good. This is old school for me because I haven't made, I don't know, one of these junk journals in a long time. But it's always good to go back to your roots, I think. It's cathartic if nothing else. And those signatures needed to be put in a cover somehow. But I like the way that the paper looks with it and the labels on the spine. And then I put that one on the back cover. And then this one on the front cover. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching this process today. And maybe you've done this before, but maybe you haven't. But either way, maybe you learned something today. Thank you all for hanging out with me today. And I will see you really, really soon in the next video. Bye, guys.